How does the GFX100 II perform as a cinema camera in one of the hottest and most humid climates in the world? Hi, my name is Donal, director and cinematographer from Atlas One Studio. In this video, I'm going to tell you all about how we use the GFX100 II to film a documentary in Borneo, Indonesia. Atlas One Studio is an independent production house that highlights stories that matter about people, wildlife, and nature through photography and film. And we couldn't be more proud to partner up with Fujifilm to share the story of Isa, an ex-illegal logger who transformed from destroying the jungle for his livelihood to dedicating himself to protecting it. In the film, which we're aiming to be around 10 to 20 minutes, we explore his motivations for the transformation and what's at stake for everyone in the place that he's trying to protect. So if you're keen on a bit of a behind-the-scenes look into the making of a documentary using the GFX and the challenges of filming in Borneo, then stick around.
Okay, I take this one.
You alright?
It's hot. I've broken it all up into 3 chapters. The first, the gear, of course. The second, our approach and some specific challenges. And lastly, a sneak peek preview sequence from the production. Chapter 1, the gear. Okay, so the camera setup. I've been working with Fuji for about the past year or so, and the GFX100 II has quickly become one of my favorite cameras for stills. Largely because of the way that the medium format sensor renders light and textures. There's this sort of, like 3D quality to the images with a kind of spatial softness that I haven't really found in any other camera system. And that unique visual character is what drew me to use it as a cinema camera for this project. So far, we found the GFX just handles light differently. There's this smooth highlight roll-off and a natural depth that makes the image feel immersive and personal, which is exactly what we're looking for this film. On this production, we actually used 2 bodies, one as an A cam and the second as a B cam for alternative shots and quick cutaways. For lenses, we used a mix of GF lenses plus DZOFilm Arles cinema primes, which I'll speak more about later. In terms of cinema rig, we actually kept one camera more or less stripped down with just a small shotgun mic on top. While the other camera, which was fitted with a cage, handles, monitor, tilt-a-map box plus variable ND, and microphone, adding on the DZO cinema lenses, which are quite a bit heavier than the GF lenses, it usually totaled up to around 4 to 5 kilograms. And this is where the Easy Rig came into the picture. Basically, we were setting up the gear 3 days before flying to Borneo, and it was clear that I would have had challenges holding up the whole camera system in hot, humid conditions for hours at a time. But let me tell you, we got this Easy Rig thing, and well, it's in the name because it definitely makes it so much easier. It was actually really crucial for the shoot and allowed me to creatively achieve so many more angles and shots than I could have without it. Now don't get me wrong, the GFX100 II is actually very manageable in terms of weight. So our B cam, which we ran with just PolarPro variable NDs and a top microphone, didn't need the Easy Rig. But because I like to use a monitor and all the other extra bits for filming, it became necessary to work with it. Shooting format. The format we chose to shoot in was 4K 16:9 at a frame rate of 59.94 in GF format. For the media recording settings, we shot onto CF Express Type B cards in 10-bit H.265 all I 422 MOV at 720 Mbps. That's a mouthful.
Menanam pohon itu sangat berarti buat saya dan juga buat kehidupan terutama keluarga saya, karena saya sudah merasakan bagaimana hidup di lahan yang tidak ada pohon sama sekali.
Using 325 gigabyte cards, this gave us around 50 minutes per card. You know, when shooting a documentary, it's unclear sometimes how much you might shoot in a day. And of course, card space and SSDs are limited. In the end, we chose these recording settings as a good balance between keeping the data rate manageable and the quality that we needed for the film.
Biasanya kalau sudah tumbuh seperti ini, pohon belanggerang ini akan cepat tumbuh. Biasanya dalam 1 tahun itu udah bisa capai 1.
ProRes, although it could have been really nice to use this format, would have potentially slowed down our production in the field if we ran out of space. And in post-production, it's a lot harder to work with ProRes than it is with the log footage. In terms of profile, we used F-Log2C, which from our experience gave us the best color mix plus an incredible roll-off in the highlights. Because of the location, we knew we'd encounter conditions with both strong, harsh light and very dark scenarios. So having an epic dynamic range that came with the F-Log2C gave us exactly what we needed to be able to film flexibly. A few of my favorite other features of filming with the GFX100 II include the custom buttons, which I used to set up the camera to my specific needs. For example, being able to use the LCD monitor for monitoring exposure using the waveform. And in general, the form factor of the camera itself, it was very comfortable to work with even when fully rigged out in the cinema format. Additionally, about the camera settings themselves, we shot everything at ISO 800 in 1/120th of a second for the shutter speed. Okay, the lenses. For this production, we wanted to create a very specific look that felt dreamy and not necessarily clinically sharp, but with smooth and sort of painterly quality to the images. This is why we chose to work with the DZOFilm Arles lenses as the primary lenses, shooting mostly wide open at t1.4. One of the huge advantages of the GFX100 II is the ability to use many different formats of lenses across different shooting modes. For example, these Arles lenses, which are full-frame VistaVision lenses, fit perfectly onto the GFX sensor when shooting in GF 4K mode, maintaining their intended field of view and the aesthetic. Out in the field, we mostly shot with the 21mm t1.4 and 40mm t1.4, sometimes incorporating the 180mm t2.4 for cutaways and close-ups. Almost everything was shot at the lowest aperture intentionally for each lens, which gave us the shallow depth of field and soft fall-off that we were looking for, allowing the subjects to emerge gently from their surroundings with delicate highlights and a subtle sense of depth that carry the emotional tone
Mereka tanya
of
di
the
mana
film.
peralatan, aku bilang tidak tahu, tapi mereka terus maksa dan akhirnya mereka ngancam memasukkan laras napang ke dalam mulut dan akhirnya aku bicara karena aku ketakutan karena waktu itu kan masih kecil, masih sekitar umur 16 atau 17 tahun yang memang ya masih terlalu muda lah.
This of course also had a great secondary effect, since a lot of the scenes were shot in low light, which was thankfully offset by the wide open aperture of these lenses. The GF lenses, these were primarily used to capture wildlife and nature. The 500 f5.6 and 100 to 200 f5.6 were essential in capturing the elements of the nature that were not possible to capture with the DZO lenses that we had with us. Most of the time, we shot with the GF lenses handheld, taking full advantage of the lens image stabilization of both the 100 to 200 and the 500, which is totally epic, and made it possible to capture fast-moving animals in the jungle. Chapter 2, our approach and challenges. We're here in the house of Isam, and for the past few hours we've been getting some shots of him and his family just interacting, relaxing, and a little bit of dialogue between them talking about the forest and the things that matter most in Isam's life and the lives of his family. And in terms of documentary filmmaking, we've been using
a lot of natural light here, no artificial lighting, taking advantage of the beautiful light coming in from the outside on the faces of the people that we're documenting. We're also trying to get a lot of observation, but at the same time directing some of the questions and the interactions so we can get some of the dialogue that we want to incorporate into the film, that we want to push the film along.
Suka ini yang mana?
Hmm?
Kamu suka ini yang mana?
Apanya? Nanam?
Ya,
Nanam apa? Abang pernah nanam?
aku nanam.
Abang pernah nanam?
Ya,
Kapan?
ya,
Sama ayah di kantor?
ya,
Banyak?
ya.
Iya.
This is day 2 of filming here, and although we had a pretty good concept for what we wanted to film with Isam to tell his story, we're still discovering things along the way. And that's one of the important things to consider when you are making a documentary, is to realize that you will discover things that will inspire you in the moment that you kind of have to work with as you're going along. For a lot of the shots, I've been using the 21mm Arles lens, and right now I have the 40mm, and both Emma and myself are switching between these two lenses.
This production was actually only a 2-person crew. Myself as co-director and cinematographer, plus my partner, Emma Romeijn, as co-director, cinematographer, and producer. This project is actually around 6 years in the making. I met Isam back in 2019 when I was in Borneo for a month documenting the work of the organization that he works for, Friends of Nature, People and Forests, FNPF. Back then, I witnessed Isam give everything to fight fires to protect the jungle, while also quietly planting some of the more than 4 million trees that he's planted over his career as a guardian of the forest. To me, it was clear that he is a person that deserves to tell his story and share his message with the world. From the start of thinking about making a film, we knew that this wouldn't just be a story about Isam. We knew it had to be a collaboration with him, making sure that the film was grounded in his voice and not just our interpretations in our lens. Although we had a strong sense of context and the direction that we wanted to create visually, the more intimate layers of Isam's story unfolded naturally the more time that we spent with him. This brings us to one of the first challenges, which is language. During our first discovery interview, which is essentially a way to start off a shoot by hearing the character's story in their own words, unscripted and raw, we quickly realized how much depth and emotion Isam carried, even in the simple reflections during this first interview. Isam does speak and understand English pretty well, but after that first interview, it became clear that the conversation didn't flow as naturally as we'd hoped. While we want the film to resonate with a global audience, it was just as important to give Isam the space to express himself fully, naturally, and authentically. From the Discovery interview, it also became pretty clear that the film could have real impact locally, which meant that we needed to shoot it in Bahasa Indonesian. Since we don't speak Bahasa ourselves, we actually discovered that we could do it using an app to translate in real time. And because Isam understood our questions pretty clearly in English, the process became surprisingly smooth. Likewise, at the end of the day, we used another app using AI to translate all of the dialogue that we captured during the day so that we could review it later with subtitles in English. And this helped us to stay on top of the story as it developed, giving us insights to further understand what we needed to film next. Another challenge that is really hard to convey the full feeling of in BTS footage was the heat. Well, not just the heat, but also the humidity. Every day, except for, about the first 30 minutes of the morning, was like a Finnish sauna. Despite it being hot enough for us to drink liters and liters of water a day, the GFX, in these conditions, never overheated and never turned off. Even when filming scenes of long takes of, 30 minutes or more midday, time in, time out, the camera held out. Even when we needed a break, which is very different from my experience with other camera bodies in similar environments. So, good on you, GFX. Lastly, I wanted to quickly touch on a creative concept that we decided to explore using the Fujifilm Instax camera. For a long time, I've wanted to incorporate this format of photography into moving picture, so we brought along an Instax camera with us on this production. At the same time that we were really experimenting with it out in the field, it actually also really helped us to connect with the people that we were filming. There's something really special about being able to capture a moment, a place, people, and to have it instantly to share. You know, it opens people up in a way that they can see how you see them in that moment. Although we primarily wanted to use this as a visual tool, it ended up helping us a lot in the end grow closer to the character and his family. Chapter 3, Preview. In a moment, I'm excited to share with you a short preview sequence. And keep in mind that this scene might or might not make it into the final documentary, but hopefully it will give you an idea of the look and the feel of what you can expect in the final film.
Enak kan bang tempatnya bang?
Hah?
Enak kan tempatnya?
Iya.
Iya, masih banyak pohonnya. Ada burung apa namanya? Bang lihat enggak? Ada ekornya tadi, bagus burungnya.
Iya,
Tuh ada burung juga tuh. Tuh ada burung. Tuh. Lihat enggak? Burung apa tuh?
nggak tahu.
Itu tuh lihat enggak? Tuh yang kecil tuh. Dia bergerak tuh. Nah.
Udah makan dia paling masih makan sih.
Nah, nih bang, burungnya bang. Nih, banyak nih burung. Ada 2. Nah, ini pohon yang ayah tanam. Ini tumbuhnya bagus. Ini kan baru 1 bulan kan daunnya udah hijau nih. Udah bagus.
Ayo kita lihat yang selanjutnya.
Ini selanjutnya nih. Ini ada pulai.
Itu tinggi banget.
Iya, ini berarti kan bagus tumbuhnya nih. Tuh ada 2 tuh. Nih. Nah, tuh makan.
Dan lagi tadi sini.
Nih tuh dia. Ada kan?
Pengen. Pengen.
Nggak boleh. Di sini kan harus dilindungi bang, nggak boleh ditangkap. Nanti kalau kita tangkap dia nggak punya lagi. Nggak punya anak lagi, nggak bisa bertelur. Jadi biarin aja dia.
I hope you enjoyed that preview sequence and this look into the behind the scenes of our production. Since we just wrapped on the filming, it will be a few months before post-production is finished, but after that, the film will debut at a few film festivals. So stay tuned here for updates on where you can see the final documentary, and thanks again for tuning in. Cheers.